Welcome to Marstrand, VolvoOceanRace.tv. It's our live coverage of the Leg 9 start, live here from Sweden. A beautiful day here. We've had some pretty poor weather over the course of the stopover, but yesterday the sun came out, and you can certainly see from those pictures, it seems like all of Sweden is on the water to watch this leg start. My name's Peter Rush. I'm joined here in the studio, our studio up at the top of a castle, by Tom Addis from Telefonica Blue. And out on the water, we've got Knut Frostad as well. He's somewhere down there amongst all of those boats that you're seeing on the screen right now. If you're watching us in Stockholm, well, that's where we're heading soon. This is the start of the leg. It finishes in Sandhamn. We're expecting a finish at some point in the early morning, maybe on Tuesday, and then the boats will be coming up to Stockholm on Wednesday. But there's our route, and this might be a good time to bring in Tom Addis. He's been the navigator on Telefonica Blue. Simon Fisher's taking over that role on this leg, but their loss is our gain, Tom, and that's our racetrack down from Marstrand, just near Gothenburg, and boy, it's a lot different from some of the open ocean legs that you guys have done before.
It sure is, Peter. Lots of corners, lots of sail changes, and a short leg. So it's our shortest leg so far, and it's going to be all on very close points-wise between second and third. So, yep.
Well, that's indeed the case between Telefonica Blue and Puma, but out on the racetrack, we've been hearing from the race committee somewhere near 12 knots of breeze, which is pretty ideal for the start of a race. The wind direction just about out of the west, 260. And Knut, are you down there on the water just now? And we'll go to you. You can tell us what you're seeing down there, but I can tell from up here what you're seeing is an awful lot of boats.
Yeah, Peter, we're just by the pin end on the start line here, and I can tell you there's a lot of boats out there. Gothenburg and Marstrand is certainly well for a number of boats. It's really hard to hear you guys because there's a lot of interference, but I'll try to speak. Can you hear me over?
Yeah, we can hear you absolutely fine, Knut. You're coming through really well there, but we've got a great picture from up here. We can see the start line area, and really just hundreds of spectator boats from the very big down to the very small. What are the wind conditions and the sea state like down there?
Well, it was quite a good breeze when we came out there, and since we've been out there, sorry, I can't speak because there's something happening with the microphone. So there's
okay, we'll take over for the time being and come back to you when we can. We can see the boats sailing and getting ready to go, getting ready for the start, which isn't very far away now. We should be into our warning signal. We have spoken with Bill O'Hara on the race committee boat. He is expecting to start on time. Now, leg 9, 525 miles down to Sandhamn. An awful lot of corners in this racetrack, as you said, Tom. But set us up for these first few hours out from Marstrand. What are we expecting weather-wise, and what can the guys on board expect to happen?
Well, we've got breeze from 265, so straight out of the west at the moment. Offshore, though, it'll be further right than that. So I think the boats will be trying to work offshore for a freer angle, which means faster angle on these boats. They could expect to work offshore on a jib and eventually get onto maybe an A3 spinnaker later this afternoon, and eventually maybe an A2 tonight as they get close to the Sound, which is about 120 miles, and that's where their first decision point is. But basically, in crew terms, it's about 200 miles south and 300 miles north.
And speaking to some of the guys dockside, well, Torben Grail, he was short and succinct on what he was expecting. He said going south is going to be fast and going north is going to be slow, and they should be doing the first half of this leg in very good time, but the finish could be a little bit slower as they start to head up towards Sandhamn on that finishing stage. You can see from our helicopter shots there, people aren't just out on the water. They're basically out on every outcropping of rock to take in this race start, which is really pretty spectacular out here in Marstrand. And I think we've got Knut back down there. Knut, what's it look like down on the water level?
Well, I'm just going to give you the 10-minute gun now in about 8 seconds.
All right, count us in for that.
4, 3, 2, 1, and that's the 10-minute gun for the start of the leg from Marstrand to Stockholm.
Okay, well, we've got, again, Knut, we've got some absolutely spectacular shots here where we can see the boats milling around. It looks really crowded down there. I know Bill O'Hara and Jack Lloyd and his team are putting in some extra work on the course marshalling for this one. But tell us a little bit about this start, because before they head off for Stockholm, they have to do a little loop to do here.
Yeah, they first have to do the loop out to this little rock that's just west of Marstrand, and it's about 3 miles out there, and they're going to sail out there, round the mark, hoist the spinnakers, sail back to the start line, and round the start mark, and then head for Stockholm. So all the spectators here in Marstrand will be able to see the boats twice. We have an amazing number of spectator boats, and on the rocks just behind me, there's absolutely crowded. There's people, there's music, there's speaker systems, and lots of flags. So really nice start coming up.
All right, Knut. Well, it is certainly an absolutely perfect day for it here. We've got the breeze, it's fairly warm, and the sun is out in force. And that's also having a bit of an influence on the weather, Tom, with there's a bit of gradient wind, but there's also a little bit of a sea breeze here caused by the land heating up, that warm air rising and drawing in air off the water. That also creates a little bit of wind, and that's accounting for some of the wind shifts here.
Yeah, for sure. It's not a true sea breeze, but it's definitely twisted thermally. I can see some clearer skies offshore, and if I was sailing, I'd be going for that. And you'd just get some more right-hand breeze there. You'd be able to get your code 01 and eventually your A3, and that's what I think most guys are going to be doing. But it's fully on the wind out of here, just to miss the land.
Yeah, well, it is going to be a challenge for the guys on board, no doubt, both weather and navigation-wise. But we will just start to run through the 7-team sailing here. Of course, we'll start with Delta Lloyd and skipper Tuni Bermuda's navigator Walter Verbrack. They've done a heck of a job since the boat rejoined the fleet in Rio, starting to move up the leaderboard. They stole a point from Telefonica Black on the way in here, and that might come in handy because they are starting to chase down the other Spanish boat, Telefonica Black. They're not that far behind, and another good result here could see them with really an awful lot to play for by the time we come to the import race in Stockholm. And then, well, the two Ericsson boats, Ericsson 4, they're our overall race leader, a 15-point lead on the leaderboard. They could wrap up the Volvo Ocean Race on this leg, but there's a few boats behind them that might have something to say about that. They're in a comfortable position, but certainly nobody on that boat are counting the chickens before they hatch. They're playing down their lead right now, and they seem very focused dockside today. They want a good result into Stockholm. The sister ship Ericsson 3, Magnus Olsen, well, they've struggled a little bit. They've had a tough go of it lately, but again, Magnus sailing in home waters. He might be the one looking to break that home water curse that we seem to have had so far in the Volvo Ocean Race. And there's nothing he'd like better than to come into Stockholm with a good result. Green Dragon, well, of course, they are the most resurgent of our teams. They've been on the podium twice into Galway, and from Galway here, whatever was in the water in Ireland seems to agree with the Green Dragon crew, and a minor crew change there on the media crew members. They've switched around. Gorchan going back on board for this leg. And then Puma, well, Tom alluded to it, it's a very close race for second and third between Puma and Telefonica Blue, and Puma holding the advantage right now, just 1 point ahead of Telefonica Blue. Second place finishes in the last two legs, and finally a win in one of the leg stages, the import race in Galway for Puma. And then Telefonica Blue, that's the team they're fighting with. We talked to Telefonica Blue skipper Bauerbecking yesterday about it. Ericsson 3 now far enough behind that these two can really afford to play with each other, and both Ken and Bauer have been saying, you know, we could end up 6th or 7th in this leg, and all we really are worried about is fighting the other guy and finishing ahead. And of course, and any kind of early advantage they can get on that step in to second place, if they can do that on this leg to Stockholm, it'll certainly be a leg up ahead of the others. And Telefonica Black, Fernando Echevarri and crew, they've had a harder time of it on the last couple of legs, but they will be very keen again to get a good result. And certainly Fernando Echevarri keen to keep Delta Lloyd behind him on the overall leaderboard. So a good result here wouldn't be out of order at all. But Canute, we'll come and take a look at you now. We're on board with Telefonica Black. We're going past the race committee boat, and I think we've just had our 5-minute gun there.
Yeah, that's correct, Peter. We just had a 5-minute gun, and interesting, the breeze has actually dropped since the 10-minute gun, or since the time before we start. And Green Dragon is the first boat to now get their Coast Zero ready. So they have the Coast Zero rolled up and hoisted. So that's what they're looking at starting with. If it drops that much, normally we always see Puma putting the Coast Zero up first, and they're kind of always the most confident team with Coast Zeros. We have quite a bit of swell on the start line, a lot of waves actually, which is the first time we had such conditions actually on the start line. So with the winds dropping, I would think a Coast Zero could come in handy because you really need the power to get through these waves.
Can we try John?
Thanks, Knut. We'll watch and see if anybody else follows suit with Green Dragon on that. And I suppose spectator wash is going to be a little bit of a concern. Tom, on board the Volvo Open 70s, how much does little chop affect these boats? They're big, they're heavy, but they are fairly flat bottom, most of them.
Yeah, that's right. It certainly doesn't help. But look, the spectators are generally kept well out of the way. It's certainly nothing compared to the start of a Sydney Hobart or something like that. It's all a bit more controlled, and in this weight of breeze, these boats are powerful enough to move through this sort of stuff quite easily. Shouldn't be too much of a problem for them.
Okay, well, we've got a shot of Green Dragon looking up by the race committee boat there just now. Knut, it looks like this is going to be pretty much a true upwind leg. I know that wasn't necessarily the intention. The race course was set, and whatever wind direction, they were still going to go to that mark. But it does look like it's going to be fairly upwind. Is that right?
That is fair. That's pretty much right, Peter. I mean, the forecast though is a westerly wind direction, and it's pretty much a west course, so west going course. So that's from this morning. That is what we expected. But it's going to be a proper upwind leg and a proper downwind leg, which is interesting because that's going to make it more fun to watch. You'll have them with spinnakers jibing each way, and then having lots of passing lanes both ways. So it's probably the best scenario we can have today. And with the wind dropping, we will even see them longer.
All right, well, these short legs, Tom, you can maybe tell us about this. This is going to be the shortest one so far. Certainly the one from Galway, it's shorter, but it's not necessarily easier being on board. There's not a lot of rest on the short legs.
No, that's for sure. They just get more and more intense. We all expected, well, didn't truly expect, I suppose, but you always think these shorter legs are easier, but the intensity just goes up, especially on that previous leg. It was incredibly unstable. Lots of sail changes, lots of weather changes. This one's looking slightly easier, but I'm sure it won't end up that way.
Well, certainly the guys arriving here looked as tired as they did when they came into Rio on that long leg from Qingdao, and just not an awful lot of sleep. Knut, it looks like we've got some boats lining up for the start. We're on the back of Puma right now. They've got Delta Lloyd just down to leeward of them, and it looks like teams are starting to make their final approach and line up for the start line now.
Yeah, it's about 150 left to the start, and I'm right with the pin end at the moment. The two Ericsson boats are just to leeward of the pin end. It's a classical scenario, really, where you have a pretty good breeze, and it starts dropping just before the start. Quite easily, teams can get caught out if they're coming into the line too late in these conditions. Telefonica Blue is setting above the line at the moment and reaching down towards the line as we have 1.5 minutes only left. To me, it really looks like everybody's quite late into the sequence here, because only now having 1 minute and 20 left to the start line, a boat like Ericsson 3 is quite a few boat lengths below the line and still have a bit of distance to get up there. So interesting, quite different to what we saw in Boston and Galway, where the boats were much closer to the start line. That's 1 minute, which is only in 5 seconds. So 3, 2, 1, and that's 1 minute to the start.
Okay, well, Knut, we're still on board with Puma. We're riding with Puma here on starboard tack. We can see dead ahead of them both Ericsson boats. Green Dragon down by you at the pin. And Kenny Reed saying, we're racing, guys. Wind those sheets in. Let's go. We're ready to go. What does it look like down on your end of the line?
Well, I'm at the pin end. We have 40 seconds to go, and I would say that the boat like Ericsson 3 is lining up for port start. And they're really lining up for port start. There's no way they can make it now and tack to lure up Puma. They'll have to wait for the other guys. In fact, both the Ericsson boats and Green Dragon are all lining up for port start. So they must believe strongly in the right-hand side. We have Puma being the closest boat to the pin with 18 seconds left. They're probably a little bit early. Have to dip down a bit to burn some time and distance. Telefonica Blue is almost over the line at 9 seconds. And now Puma is coming up. The closest boat to the pin is Puma. And that was Telefonica Blue that crossed the line first. And then it was Puma crossing the line. And the other guys crossing it on port, apart from Delta Lloyd. So a really big split in this start with 4 boats on port and 3 boats on port and 4 boats on starboard. Were they all clear, Jack?
Yeah, all clear.
So all the boats were clear on the line, and we have a perfect start. Everybody's starting with Genoas, except Green Dragon are with a Genoa, but they have a code 0 furled up and ready to go. I would say the winner of that start was really Puma, as Telefonica Blue had to tack right after the start, and you really don't want to tack at the start gun.
Okay, thanks, Knut. Well, we're looking down from our vantage point up in the helicopter. We've got Ericsson and Green Dragon. They're down by the committee boat. And first row, though, it looks like we've got Ericsson 4, kind of mid-fleet or midway down the start line, Telefonica Blue, Puma. Those are all the boats down at the pin and bow forward. And then Green Dragon down here at the committee boat end. They're behind Ericsson 3 and Delta Lloyd, Telefonica Black close together. They're also a little bit second row on this start. Now, Tom, the boats are out. They've started. There's already a few boat lengths difference. How important is clear air at this stage of the race?
Oh, it's everything in this weight of breeze, for sure. And the best boats for that would be E4 and Puma at the moment. E3 and Dragon very bow down there. They're going to have to tack for water soon, and they're going to be in some filthy air.
All right, well, we've got Puma just making their tack just a few hundred meters from the rocks, Knut. Spectacular view for the spectators on shore there. And no sooner does Puma tack away from them, but they can look up and see Delta Lloyd coming at them.
Hey, Peter, yeah, I'm just allured of Puma. And I must say, to me, Puma is looking good. They have a good breeze line up here, close to the shore. And it was shocking to see the start of Green Dragon and Ericsson 4. They had really no wind at the start. And they still don't have any wind. I mean, Ericsson 4 has just tacked. And they're hardly moving. They're really, really slow. They're just parked up almost. And Puma is having solid, strong breeze on the left side of the race course. So, good call there from Kenny Reid. He really went for the breeze on the left side. And to me, he's already far ahead, crossing, we're talking about 10 boat lengths ahead of Ericsson 4 as they're crossing on port.
Yeah, we're going good.
And really, Torben, he doesn't even have his jib tacked around the mast at the moment. It doesn't look very impressive.
Yeah, I agree.
Green Dragon have just unfurled their code 0 just before they're about to sail into the spectator fleet. Looks a little bit half-hearted, that start. Bit surprising, but the boats that have the breeze here on the left side are definitely Puma, all the way up on the weather side of the left side.
Okay, well, we're just focusing in on Green Dragon. You can see that enormous code 0 sail, but you can also see the reason they're using it, Tom. It looks very, very light on that side of the racetrack.
For sure, just matter of seconds after the gun, they got very headed, but in that weight of pressure, very difficult to tack out. The angles are pretty ordinary. Pressure is everything for these boats.
Well, Green Dragon, we can see them. They are still heading, I think, towards the spectator fleet. They've got the big code 0 out, but very, very light conditions for them. And it seems like quite a split on the racetrack, Knut, in terms of wind strength and pressure, as Green Dragon out on the right-hand side really struggling. And as you were describing, Puma on the left looking pretty good.
Yeah, again, I'm just a lure just behind Puma to lure the Delta Lloyd. And as I said, the Green Dragon, I don't know what they're doing, but they're kind of parking up in the middle of the spectator fleet. Very, very strange maneuver. I would definitely attack before I unroll that 0. And Delta Lloyd is just behind Puma, tacking out further to the left side of the race course. It really looks like the breeze is coming from the left. And I can really understand why Junior Bermudez did that, because seeing how well Puma is doing here on the weather side, on the left side, they really have a good breeze line, and they're really powering on top of the other 3 boats to leeward.
Well, the winners early seem to be Delta Lloyd and Puma, although we've got Ericsson 3 just tacking out from underneath Telefonica Blue. And Knut, Ericsson 4 and Green Dragon seem to be the ones really struggling right now.
Well, yeah, Ericsson 4, it was a really strange start. I mean, they started and they sailed into the spectator fleet and they really parked up. The problem with these boats is that if you park up in big waves and squall with very light wind, you really can't tack. Because if you tack, and Tom can tell you all about that, you really park up even more. So you have to keep the boat rolling and you have to keep it going. And we see that after the tacks now, the guys are sailing very low. They're trying to build as much speed as they can so they don't slide sideways. I'm just with Puma here, and Puma already have a really nice and handsome lead. It must be at least 10 boat lengths ahead of the next boat. And the next boat is probably Telefonica Blue. They're just now tacking for the spectator fleet. Or it could even be Delta Lloyd, depending on how much wind they pick up on the left side. But Puma is, as I speak, tacking. and for the first time they are now on starboard tack, nicely ahead of the rest of the fleet.
Well, the left pane very early on in this start of leg 9. It's a leg from Marstrand to Stockholm, and Telefonica Blue, we're on board with them right now. We can see them just on the edge of the spectator fleet, and great view certainly for any of the folks who've come out to enjoy this lovely weather and the great sights on this restart here from Marstrand to Stockholm. Telefonica Blue just going through attack. You can see how light it is. We were hearing reports of up to 12, 14 knots pre-start. There's certainly not that now. It looks like, from what we can see on board here with the guys here, Tom, it looks really light, maybe more like 5 or 6, if that.
Yeah, for sure. Delta Lloyd, though, looks like they're in a nice header there. They might be able to tack and have a decent look for the top mark. Can't quite see the top mark visually, but might be a good time to tack soon.
Well, I think they're going to need to. They're running into the spectator boats. It's a good call. You can see them just going around now on Delta Lloyd, and there's our race leader, Kenny Reed and Puma, with early on in leg 9, but certainly starting well out on the left side of the racetrack, and starboard tack start near the pin end. They went as far as they could towards the rocks. They tacked, and they've been able to use that breeze on the left to good advantage, although it looks like we've got some interesting lineup now with Puma and Telefonica Black, and I'm just hearing Kenny Reed in my headphones. He's saying, guys, the breeze has gone way left. Is that right? And it does look like that's what's happening, Tom.
Certainly looks like that on Delta Lloyd just before they tacked. Beautifully headed. So, but it is light. The angle back's not so good, but it's the same for everyone. I think they might come out of this pretty well.
All right. Well, riding with Puma. Canute, it looked like Puma. We could hear a little bit of the audio coming off the boat with about 40 seconds to go. You could hear Kenny Reed shouting, "Guys, we're racing. Let's wind them in now." And it seemed like they were able to adjust fairly quickly to the realization that the breeze was soft and they were still a fair distance off the line.
Absolutely, Peter. But I tell you, the difference of left and right here is just enormous. I don't know if you guys can see that, but Telefonica Blue, I think 10 minutes ago, were the second boat in the race, and they're almost dead last at the moment. They just stopped. It's like the spectator fleet is forming a wall, which just basically blocks the breeze. And if you get too close to that spectator fleet, it will have absolutely nothing. So Bowie Becking was really the second boat behind Puma, and he got just too far, and he got stuck with his spectators. And look at him now. He has, 4 or 5 boats ahead of him. So you've got to be really careful about getting too close to the spectator fleet with this really light, shifty breeze.
Okay, well, we can see.
And we have a very nice crossing coming up here between Puma and Delta Lloyd, and I would say that's a very close call here. Delta Lloyd is probably going to bear away and go behind them, I would think, and they're very close. So the best boat lately has been Delta Lloyd, and they have clearly made gains on hiking out on the left side of the race course.
Well, good call there, Canute. We can see Delta Lloyd just easing down, easing the sails out on port tack, Puma on starboard tack with the right of way coming through there. So still ahead of Delta Lloyd, but not by very much. And another cross coming up with Puma as they start to try and get back out to the left-hand side of the racetrack, Canute. They've got Ericsson, and I think it's Telefonica Black out there with them as well.
Absolutely, Telefonica Black is clearly the third boat at the moment. There's no doubt about that, and they also hiked all the way out on the left side. Kenny Reed is crossing, obviously, both of them, and it seems like he's going as far as he dared to go. But again, I think even on this side, you have to be careful with that spectator fleet. The breeze is sort of very unstable with the chop. It's not a lot of breeze on the surface, and I think with the spectator fleet, if you get too close to it, it's so easy to park up. And Kenny is being conservative. He's tacking at least 100 meters from the spectators and just rolling into the tack now of Telefonica Black.
Okay, well, we are on board with Puma as they go through that tack. Kenny Reed just switching wheels, getting back up to the high side, the windward side to steer. He's got a little bit of better visibility there. Canute, how far are they in terms of approaching this mark? Are they getting close up there? Are they halfway? What's the distance to go?
I can see that mark, and yes, I would say that they're more than halfway, or just about halfway now. They're not, depending on what happened to the breeze, the mark seems to be a little bit more, no, it's still far away, sorry. I was looking at the gate. It's still quite a bit of distance, so they're not even halfway yet. It's going to take them some time to get to that top mark.
All right, well, we've got Puma Ocean Racing. They are leading very early in leg 9, but a bit of action just outside our window. We are in the castle on the island of Marstrand. We're up in, I don't know what you would call it, a little observation tower. We've got pretty narrow windows to look out, but what we can see, Tom, is I think is that Green Dragon again going right through the spectator fleet.
Yeah, that's right. They're just tacking now, not a lot of pressure, but they were definitely headed there. If they can keep the boat moving, they're on the right side of the track.
Well, you can see it's real struggle just to get the boat around the wind, through the eye of the wind, especially sailing with that code 0, having to roll it in as you go through that tack. Yeah. Doesn't help matters at all. How long does it take to get a boat back up to speed in conditions like this?
With the code 0, quite a long time, because you've got to furl the sail, then tack, then unfurl, and it's quite an expensive manoeuvre for all boats except Puma. Puma have the best deck layout for their code 0, so it's a little bit cheaper for them, but in this weight of breeze and the sloppy sea state, probably takes a good 40 seconds to a minute.
Wow, well, we've got a great helicopter shot there that shows you our leaders. There's Puma in the middle of your screen, Telefonica Black just down to leeward of them, and out on the far left. We know Green Dragon's out here. We've just seen them tack inside the spectator fleet, so a great view for some of the folks out here on the water to take in the action today, and you don't need to come to the action, it'll come to you. We've got Delta Lloyd there, and they're looking fairly bow forward. I don't know if they tack now, Knut, what would happen in a cross between Delta Lloyd and Puma at the front of the fleet.
Well, I'll tell you what's happening right now. What's happening to Ericsson 3 and Delta Lloyd is what happened to Bowie Becking. They got too close to the spectator boat again, and Delta Lloyd just parks up. It happened in 10 seconds, and they're just sitting there upright, going absolutely nowhere, and just losing everything they worked for so far. It's unbelievable. I'm really surprised that these guys are not seeing this, because there's 3 boats, including Telefonica Blue again, getting too close to the spectator fleet on the left side and just parking up. And I can see Kenny Reed looking underneath the mainsail every now and then, and he's seeing this happening. And if I was Telefonica Black now, I would tack right away, get out of it, because there is no wind on the right side of the race course. You're really going to protect the left. And that's so obvious, looking, I think, around us.
Okay, well, I think they've taken your advice, Knut. I think Black's just tacked and Delta Lloyd as well.
Yeah, absolutely they did. And it kind of looks like a header, but it's also wind drop, you know. It's just absolutely no breeze there. And as I look now, Telefonica Black is actually going backwards, as is probably Delta Lloyd. It's going to take them some time, and it's giving Kenny Reed an even bigger lead. Kenny Lead.
Kenny Reed is leading. Kenny Reed leading on Puma, and of course he'll also need to be careful that he doesn't go too far out to the right-hand side. He's about mid-course, I would say, right now, from what I can see out the window here. And we've got the course really well defined on both sides by spectators. Spectator boats certainly on the right-hand side of the race course, really providing a fairly definitive wall to our racetrack. On the left, it's a little bit more spread out, but still, it's a pretty good indication of where you should go to stay in the middle of the racetrack. And so far, for the most part, the sailboats have been respecting that. Green Dragon, notwithstanding, going fairly far in on the left. We can see out our window now here, Tom. Green Dragon, it looks like they've got a bit of pace on, certainly compared to the others on the far right.
Yeah, good recovery for sure. And they've got a few clues in front of them about what to do next. So hopefully they can recover.
Yeah, Green Dragon just heading in towards the middle of the racetrack right now. And we've got a great view from the top there. Puma as well, leading ahead of Telefonica Black. I don't know, Knut, have they tacked as well now, Puma?
Go back there. Yeah, well, Puma's tacked as well. And there's something more happening right now. I don't know, Tom, what the Telefonica weather team had as a forecast this morning, but it really looks like we're having a big drop here all over the course. And the sky is clearing up, and in fact, the breeze is dying all the way across the race course, actually. Really difficult for the guys, but the swell is still here, so it's looking at the swell setting them backwards at the moment on land. Really, really difficult to get the boats going, and I would think that the 2 Spanish boats, Telefonica, look a lot better right now. They always seem to get going in those conditions, and I'm surprised that not more teams are starting to rig up their code zeros. I know you want to keep your boat going, but at the moment, the only boat I can see that's really sailing with any pace is Green Dragon. And they're coming into the middle of the fleet with good pace with that big Code Zero.
Well, Knut, just as you mentioned that about the swell and the waves stopping the boat, we're on a stern camera on Green Dragon, and you can see the whole camera shaking and shuddering as the bow lifts out of the water and hits into the next swell. It is really, really lumpy out there, especially considering the sea state. It doesn't look like a comfortable time to be on board, Tom.
No, they never are. You always hope for a smooth start to these races, but yeah, very lumpy out there. I think long term you'd want to be working offshore, but of course we've got some fixed marks here, so it's going to be a bit of a painful time for everyone. All
right, well, I might just send Tom outside to take a look at the sky and the weather if he wants quickly at the moment, and maybe he can give us a bit of an update on what he sees, because certainly his role as navigator on Telefonica Blue and as meteorologist for the team, he might be able to give us a little bit more insight. The sky certainly looking much different than it did at race start time. We've got Delta Lloyd just crossing ahead of Green Dragon, but Knut, it's slow motion out there.
Yeah, I mean, to say Delta Lloyd is crossing ahead of Dragon is a bit of an over-exaggeration, because they're actually going backwards on land as I look. And it is a really difficult scenario here now, because the wind is dying and the swell is still there. And the guys are just struggling so much to get going. I actually remember this 2 races ago. We were starting here out of Gothenburg, and we had this big Code Zeros on the Volvo Open 60s. And we actually made one of our tacks out here. We jibed the boat rather than tacking it, because trying to tack now, you actually just get shuffled backwards, and it takes you forever to get going. So at the moment, Green Dragon have caught up a lot. They're clearly ahead of Telefonica Blue. I can see the guys on Telefonica Blue lining up the Code Zero on the foredeck. Delta Lloyd is going nowhere. And with Telefonica Black, they're having the sails east, and it looks like the breeze has shifted to the right quite a bit. And the boats that are sailing with any pace at the moment, I would say, is maybe Ericsson 4 coming from behind on the left, but the rest of them are all stopped. But it looks to me like we're seeing quite a big shift, Tom. I don't know what kind of forecast you guys have had, but I can see Ericsson 3 sailing quite high on starboard. I mean, really looking like they have a massive right-hander. Is that anything that you guys have been looking at, the northerly shift?
Well, there's certainly right-hand pressure offshore. You can see a line 5-10 miles out, which would mark the edge of this sea breeze. Beyond that, you'd have more pressure and more right-hand pressure. We're obviously working inside that, but you are going to get some phasing left and right. But inshore, you know, that big picture stuff's pretty academic, because we're working inshore around these fixed marks. But there are going to be some lefts and rights, long-term right. But over the scale we're looking at, it's just what you can see, really. It's you're playing within the much bigger picture.
Yeah, well, I'm just with Telefonica Black and Puma here, and it's interesting. Telefonica Black is probably steering a course due west. Puma is steering 40 degrees lower, and I think the game right now for these guys is just whoever managed to get the boat going and doing some speed. It's going to do pretty well. The hard thing is that the wind direction makes you point straight onto the waves. So if you follow the wind direction for an optimum angle, you're going to go backwards. I can see Delta Lloyd are trying to go with the wave sideways and don't really get going, because that gives them a too open angle. But interesting enough, it's still only Green Dragon that really have the Code Zero out there. They just made a tack. And I wouldn't be surprised if Green Dragon get going, actually, with that Zero. They have it nicely filled. And I'm really surprised that it's only Telefonica Blue that is hoisting it, nobody else. But we will see. This is, to me, a very classical scenario where you would like to have your Code Zero.
Well, we're riding on board with Ericsson 4 right now. And we can see they seem to be moving reasonably well just now as well. Lots of pointing going on as they're looking on starboard tack and orienting them on the racetrack. Whereabouts is Ericsson 4, and how does it look like they're doing? Because they seem to have a bit of pace right now.
Yeah, Ericsson 4 is the boat out on the left side, all the way out on the left side. And they are sailing in a complete different breeze. They still have the westerly wind direction. They still have a bit more wind than the other guys. While the guys up here with me now, I'm with between Puma, Black, and the rest of the fleet. They are sailing on the northerly direction. It's kind of a north-northwest wind direction. And it looks to me that both Ericsson 3 and Green Dragon managed to fill their sails on that direction. but obviously, as I said, straight against the waves. So my gut feeling is that Ericsson 4 out on the left side is sailing in the old breeze, and these guys are sailing in the new breeze. And still Ericsson 4 need to get through that gate, so they need to tack pretty soon and work themselves up towards the same place as the other guys. So I think you'll find that Torben is not going to make a big recovery on that one.
Okay, well, we are on board with Ericsson 3. The guys look like they might just be setting, or Ericsson 4 I should say, it looks like they're just setting up for that tack now. And there we are with them rolling through it. I think that's an exclusion zone mark, maybe not the mid-course gate, although I could be wrong on that. But they're just coming up now, still with good speed, certainly compared to the rest of the fleet, but they are well out to the left of the racetrack compared to the rest of the boats, and certainly looking for wind and keeping the boat moving more than anything else at this stage. Canute, down on the race course where you are, we had Puma, Telefonica Black. What does it look like between those two? Because they seem to be really struggling to keep the pace up.
Yeah, I think the guys in the middle are kind of between both. You know, they're not really in the new breeze that I can see. Green Dragon are really clearly moving now with the close zero, and they're not in Torben's breeze. But the question is, who's going to win? Well, I'm looking straight at the gate now, and the gate is kind of really narrow. It's much narrower, this gate, than what we had in the import races. So you do not have a lot of options. And Telefonica Blue, Green Dragon, and Ericsson 3 are all pointing straight at the gate. And they are, with this wind direction they have, they're actually doing really well, and they will reach straight through it. While I think Torben has to sail upwind on Ericsson 4, and Puma and Black are struggling to lay that gate on starboard at the moment with their jibs up.
Okay, we're on board with Telefonica Black. You can just see, just sometimes coming into frame on the left of the picture, we've got Puma under there just a little bit ahead of them and to leeward, but not much to choose between these two, especially if they need to work upwind towards that mid-course gate. This leg, it's about 3 miles out, 3 miles back. It's 6 miles in total before they're able to sail off and carry on with the rest of the leg to Sandham and Stockholm. But that's probably our best shot overall of the fleet, where we've got Green Dragon just in the middle there, really looking like they're still keeping the pace on. They've got that code 0 out. They are making speed, but very lumpy, dead bow on in this heavy swell. And that's really the boat coming to a shuddering stop every time they go over one of the bigger waves. And below them, Puma and Telefonica Black. You wouldn't have called it like this had you watched the start and seen Green Dragon a moment after the start, but they do look like they've made a bit of a recovery here, Tom.
Yeah, they have, and they've committed to that sail change. In this sort of lump, changing a sail to the 0 is quite an expensive manoeuvre. It involves moving a lot of people, dragging sails around the boat, and there's a big risk that you'll stop the boat and really struggle to get going. So I think that's probably the reason that a lot of boats haven't changed. It's better the devil you know, and they're just trying to keep the boat moving.
Okay, Canute, we're on board with the Green Dragon now, and they are moving, but again, that bow just lifting up and slamming down as they go over the bigger swells. It is still pretty lumpy out there. Now, is this from spectator fleet wash, or is this just a leftover swell from the breeze of the last few days?
No, this is a normal swell out there. There's nothing spectacular new about this. This is quite common. And in fact, the breeze is filling in from the north here. The boat that has the most breeze, is actually Telefonica Blue now, all the way to weather. Get outside of the race boat. Inside the course.
All right, well, we're hearing some whistling and shouting on board. I think that's probably directed towards some of the spectators and the course marshals, doing a good job of keeping the racetrack clear for the guys. Telefonica Blue, Canute, they're out on the far right-hand side of the racetrack, and it seems like they are the ones with a bit more of the breeze there. We've got a great shot of Green Dragon, code 0 sheeted right in as they try and keep the boat moving forward, and they are seeming to do a good job of that right now, is Green Dragon. They've got a bit of speed on, Canute.
Yeah, the problem we have is that the whole spectator fleet, it's really disappointing, have sailed straight into the race course on the right side of the course. So they're really limiting where the guys can go, and that's been a problem the whole way here. Hey guys, the race course is here. You're right in the middle of it.
Well, we can hear Canute pulling double duty there as he's talking to some of the spectator fleet, trying to clear a lane for the race boats here as they head up towards the windward mark, what's turned into pretty much a dead upwind beat off of the start line here. And the guys were expecting the start of the race to be fast. It's been anything but that, Tom. And what does this do to the ETA further down the track?
Oh, look, probably nothing too dramatic. As they work offshore this afternoon, they'll get going just fine. It's as when you're doing these legs, you love just to get going, get into open water, rather than do these mark roundings. Obviously great for spectators, but as they work offshore, they'll find some proper breeze, and they'll get going down towards the sound near Denmark.
Okay, well, it's still a little ways to go before that happens, because they've got to get up top, they've got to round this mark, they've got to come downwind, and filling a spinnaker in this amount of breeze and this kind of swell, that's not the easiest job either, is it?
No, and there's no way you could fly the biggest spinnakers, the A2s in this. I think everyone will go to an A3, or some might even stay on their A0, or Green Dragon's the only one with the 0. It'd be interesting to see what they peel to. I think most will be onto their A3s.
And so sailing downwind on this wind direction and this course, of course, they're not going to be sailing directly towards the start line again. They're going to have to essentially tack downwind. They'll be doing jives, sailing big angles, a lot of extra distance, but the increased speed, of course, more than compensates for that extra distance. We've got a great shot there of Green Dragon leading one of the Ericsson boats. I believe that's Ericsson 4, or Ericsson 3, I should say, that's with them. Leading them through the gate there is Green Dragon, Ericsson 3, and we know that just down to leeward of those two is where Puma and Telefonica Black are sailing, and both of those boats still struggling to keep the speed on, and well behind is Ericsson 4, but again, very early days in this. We're on board there with Ericsson 3. I think I can see Axel Magdal there with the tablet computer up, and you can see the boat actually is moving well, still battling through those swells. I know Axel was talking to me about this morning about winds being upwards of 20 knots by the time they do get into that offshore breeze, and you can imagine they can't wait to get there. Canute, where are you on the racetrack, and what are you seeing apart from spectator boats?
Well, I'm in the middle of the spectator fleet, Peter, and we're having a problem because all the spectator boats are unfortunately disturbing all the sailors by not moving, and that's a problem for us. So we're trying to get the spectator fleet out of the race course so we can clear the course here, but they're too keen to get into the course at the moment, which is very disappointing. But Telefonica Blue has a nice position, and the two best boats at the moment are Telefonica Blue and Green Dragon, really. Both with Coseros, great pace, and the breeze has filled in from the north.
Okay, well, we were on a really good helicopter shot just now to explain what's happening. In the middle right of your frame, I believe that is Telefonica Blue, just on the line of the spectator boats there, Tom. It does look like they furthest to the right and with the best breeze. And then filling the middle of your screen now, Ericsson 3, ahead of them is Green Dragon. And you could see earlier down at the back behind these three boats, we had Puma and Delta Lloyd heading out on attack on port tack, heading out towards that right-hand side. It does look right now, spectator fleet notwithstanding, that the right is the place to be.
Yeah, it's certainly closer to the proper breeze offshore. That there are going to be periods, especially further inshore, where some big lefts will happen. It's not a true sea breeze, but it definitely sort of twists on shore. So there could still be some big lefts, but probably more towards the bottom of the track rather than the top. The further up you go, the more right you should see.
All right, well, Green Dragon, they did use that right-hand side to get themselves back into the race. Not a good start by the guys on Green Dragon, but they're not worried about that now because they might just be leading this fleet. If they're not, they're certainly right up there. Telefonica Blue, they're a little bit further back, but further to the right. You can just see on board there, we are with the guys on Telefonica, and we can see that they are moving well. They do have spectator boats dead ahead of them. You can certainly see plenty of that going on. But the fleet does seem to be moving ahead of them, the spectators. A sail coming out. What's in the green bag, Tom?
In the green bag is our new A2 spinnaker. Just to prove me wrong, I said they'd go to an A3. Looks like they're setting up for a 2. I'm surprised in this wave state, actually, but there you go.
All right, well, the A2 coming up on deck on Telefonica Blue. A little bit of insider knowledge there as they do work their way up. They're through the mid-course gate. They're heading up towards that top mark. We haven't had a chance to see exactly where they are on the racetrack yet, but in relation to that mark, but we don't think they have an awful lot further to go. And there's a pretty good overview going right now with the top 3 boats in the fleet. Telefonica Blue there in the bottom left of your screen. Green Dragon is out to the right, and that is Ericsson 3 just in the middle of those 3 boats. And the Ericsson guys doing some good work out here as well. On board with Green Dragon there. I think they are leading the fleet, but it depends, Knut, on whether they're going to need to tack. And I don't know if you can see from where they are in relation to the mark. Are they laying, or are they going to need to come up and do another tack?
Well, I think they'll have to tack, yeah. The problem is that the spectator fleet is hindering them to sail as high as they would like to do. So they're going to have to sort of struggle to sail as high as they want here. But at the moment, I don't think they're laying the mark. It's still a bit early to see the mark up there, but the breeze is northerly, but it's not that northerly. And obviously Green Dragon and Telefonica Blue having the best position here. Looking pretty good, and the breeze is picking up a little bit as I speak. But a huge wash from the spectator fleet, which is making this all quite difficult.
Well, we are grateful for the enthusiasm of the local fans here, but of course we're hoping that they are able to stay off the race course and give these guys some room to operate. We're on board again with Green Dragon, who may just be leading this race. They're neck and neck with Telefonica Blue for position right now, approaching the top mark for the first time. And you see Ian Moore, the navigator, in the middle of your screen. He's just turning back towards us now, and he's checking position, seeing where they are in relation to that top mark. Ian Walker on the steering wheel, working the boat well through these waves. And it is slow speed sailing. And behind them in shot is Puma. You can see them on the left of your screen. They were leading early. They'd used the left-hand side of the racetrack early. That was the right place to be. But it didn't take long for the breeze to start filling in from the right-hand side. And the boats over on the right really are the ones who seem to have benefited right now and seem to be leading the fleet as they get up to the top mark. Knut, how does it look for the guys further back? Are they able to make good speed? I know Ericsson 4 early, or a few minutes ago, certainly looked like they were really struggling.
Well, the guys in the back, they happened to be on the opposite side when the breeze filled in from the north. So they really lost everything there. And the 3 boats that settled up on the right side before the gate, they got the new breeze first. So if you combine this with all the wash from the spectator fleet, then it's going to be really, really difficult for them to catch up anything.
Well, remember, all of these guys do have to go back. They're going to be turning and going back down into that spectator fleet. So it's certainly not over yet in terms of what the guys are going to have to deal with. They're going to head back and go right all the way back to the start line before they start to come out and sail off on the leg proper. It's 525 miles is the leg from Marstrand to Sandhamn in Stockholm, or just off of Stockholm. And this little bit that they're doing at the start, about 6 miles, so just a shade over 1% of the leg. So if you're an Ericsson 4 fan, don't fret too much. They might be a little bit behind now, but there's still plenty of sailing left on this leg. If you're a Green Dragon fan, well, you can take heart, because the guys are looking like they're doing pretty well early on. And we've got a good shot there from the mast of Green Dragon, the spreader camera, looking down over the sail. And you can see one of the TV ribs going up and taking some shots of the Green Dragon as they lead the fleet up towards the first mark here. Wind conditions, these guys who are in the breeze now on the right, what kind of wind strength are we talking about here?
Oh, we're not talking about a lot of breeze, Peter. We're talking about 8 knots, 8-9 knots. But we get to leeward of that island, and it's a bit flatter. There's less breeze there.
Okay.
So I would say that the guys are not even close to lay the mark, but it could be that the guys all the way in the back there get more northerly, but they all have to tack. I'm just by the mark here now, and it's going to be a reach back, so we might not see spinnakers, but maybe Cosderos going back to the start line.
Okay, we'll watch and see what sails do start to go up, but it sounds like this little beat up to windward, it hasn't played itself out yet. There is still some tacking left, as we'll see what the guys do when they get across, because we do know that taxing these boats are pretty expensive as well, certainly in this sea state and this wind speed. Tom was telling us earlier, probably upwards of a minute to get the boats back up to speed. We've got Green Dragon. We're shooting from the back on Green Dragon. You can see the guys pretty still on board. A lot of people with their heads out of the boat trying to take a look. And how much feedback goes back to the navigator, the tactician, the helmsman, Tom, from the guys up working the boat?
Plenty of times. No, look, more eyes the better, really, especially when you got 7 boats around you. Knowing who's up, who's down, who's slower, who's faster is definitely handy. But look, in these conditions, just keeping the boat moving, almost regardless of direction, is the key. So you're generally just concentrating on boat speed more than anything else.
All right, well, that's certainly Ian Walker's job right now, as we can see the wheels working as he tries to keep the boat on the best angle for the wind he has, and also to try and work it through the waves a little bit. The rudders on these boats, they're not overly generous in size, so there's not a lot of instant feedback necessarily there, and you can see at low speeds especially, they do really need to work the wheel a fair bit to keep it on track.
Yeah, and extremely eased and twisted on those zeros. They're going for every bit of power they can get.
All right, Green Dragon leading our fleet. Knut, you're up by the top mark. How much of a hitch are they going to have to take out to the right-hand side still?
Well, they're going to take quite a big one. It's the breeze is actually dropping a little bit again, so they'll struggle to be even close to land. I would say that probably about a 10-minute ride on the port tack for Green Dragon, maybe a bit less. So that's how much they have to sail on port tack to get to the mark. While the boats all the way in the back looks like they might be pointing at the top mark actually, but they are obviously far behind, and they really took them a long time to get going. And that spectator fleet, I tell you, that's blocking the wind for the guys. So if you get too close to it on the weather side, you have nowhere to go because you just get stuck and you can't get away.
All right, well, that hasn't been an issue yet for Green Dragon, or certainly not recently, but they were going to have to tack and get themselves out to the right-hand side of the racetrack. We know that they've got Telefonica Blue a little bit further right than them already, and Ericsson 3 is a little bit underneath them, just falling down to leeward of them. And a big group of boats behind include Delta Lloyd and Puma. We can see them there. Delta Lloyd, I think we've got Telefonica Black is in the mix there as well, and then Ericsson 4. So a nice shot at the back of the fleet, but you can see that spectator fleet in a pretty hard line on the far right end of the racetrack, and that is defining how far to the right the boats can go. Green Dragon is going to find out about that in a few minutes. They're going to need to make a tack and head themselves out there. We can see Ian Moore walking forward on the boat and taking a bit of a look and see what he can find.
Yeah, he'll be calling out some times and some of the manoeuvres to the guys on the bow, just to give them an idea of where they are on the track, how long they've got to set everything up.
And we will be getting ready to see. Knut, you said you think they're probably going to run with the code 0 on the downwind leg as well. Okay, I don't know if we've lost Knut for a moment there, but guys on Green Dragon approaching the top mark. And Green Dragon, of course, on a bit of a roll right now. They've had 2 podium finishes into Galway and from Galway to Marstrand, and leading the fleet right now. There's nothing more they would like than to make it 3 times in a row on the podium. Just pipped to the post by Puma on the leg in here. And if you've seen some of that footage, it was pretty spectacular finish between Puma and the Green Dragon, just a few hundred meters in it. And after that long sail all the way from Galway, there just wasn't very much there in between them. And of course that has had a big impact on the overall leaderboard, as Puma getting Green Dragon behind them. They gain another point. That's the difference. That's put them ahead of Telefonica Blue going into this leg. 2 more long legs left. And there's a nice helicopter shot there of the guys on Puma Ocean Racing. Kenny Reed, he had an early lead in this one, but he's fallen a little bit further behind right now. Being at the back, he's got a bit of an option. We think they're sailing a little bit higher than the guys ahead of them. maybe doesn't need to tack out to the right. And there we are on board with Puma Ocean Racing. Kenny Reed, a pretty quiet boat. This one, the guy's still and quiet. Not too many guys in the middle of that boat, Tom.
No, they even got guys downstairs from the look of it. Or are they just in front of the mast?
Yeah, I think maybe some of the guys down below right now. Just a few, 2 or 3 men on the pedestals, and a trimmer, and Kenny Reed steering the boat as well. And there's the goal. That's what they're getting up to. The turning mark just beside this island on the rock here, and we can see the big spectator fleet getting themselves arranged and oriented, waiting to see the boats as they go around this top mark. And we will see exactly what impact the spectator boats have. Right now, we know so far they've been unruly, but not immensely interfering with the racetrack. Certainly boats on the race course, but I don't think there's been any real close calls between the fleet. Certainly not that we can see. On board with the guys on Telefonica, they're throwing in their tack now.
Hey Peter, this is Knut here. I'm just at the top mark, and I can tell you this is a close crossing. It looks to me that Green Dragon is going to be the first boat around, but at the same time they'll have to make a tack with their code 0, and Telefonica Blue is going to finish their tack obviously sooner than that. So Green Dragon is ahead, in my view, but they're going to have a tack with the code 0 while the Telefonica is going to get the nice rounding. And then they're going to have a downwind in really, really difficult conditions. So it is going to be a difficult next leg for them, because it's really hard to work it downwind in those conditions.
All right, we've got a nice shot of the lighthouse on the rock just beside where they're going. We've got Green Dragon coming in here, Tom, and we talked about some of the more difficult maneuvers. How about this? A tack set around the mark.
Tack set, yeah, not the fastest manoeuvre known to mankind, but let's see how this pans out. They could get rolled here by Blue.
Okay, we've seen that before as well. Teams just luffing up to get around a mark and somebody coming in at pace. Although Green Dragon, they seem to have executed fairly well here. They've come around. We can see them slowing down now as they start to turn downwind. The mainsail goes out. It's not going to go out very far, certainly not in these conditions. Otherwise, that's just going to be flopping around in the sea state. Meanwhile, Telefonica Blue, in relative terms, charging up to the mark. And they're just approaching now at full chat, and we'll see as they start to ease themselves around the mark. See, Green Dragon, that's a really big turn that they've had to do. The boat almost still in the water as Telefonica Blue goes around, not very far behind now. And Tom will see, they've closed this down to just about a boat length or so.
Yeah, they have. Gee, Dragon made it even more expensive. They've jibed as well. Looks like Blue doesn't have an A3 on the foredeck at all, so they might be just planning to run with this A0 for a while. I really can't see them hoisting the 2 in this stuff.
Okay, Knut, that mark round, and we've just seen Green Dragon. Boy, that was very slow. An enormous turn around that mark, and essentially a tack and jibe around the mark. It's not one you see every day.
The tack jibe set.
Yeah, I mean, that was a really slow rounding, and Telefonica Blue, they went for the opposite option and just bore away around the mark, and they're continuing on the starboard. So we have a full split between the two boats here. I can see why Ian Walker wanted to jibe around the mark, because the new breeze really filled in from the north, and that's where it's filling in from. So if he believes in any more pressure coming, he's doing the right thing. As I speak, Green Dragon is hoisting the spinnaker, and Telefonica Blue is now jibing as well. What is going to be difficult for Green Dragon is that the spectator fleet, as I said, it's unfortunately really close on the race course. So it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for them to get forward.
Okay, we are on board with Ericsson 3 right now, as we can see them coming up to the mark as well. They're just rolling in that code 0. Like Green Dragon, they've been coming in from the left-hand side. They're going to need to tack around this mark. We'll see whether they do the full Green Dragon maneuver, which will take them back out in a pretty much a 360 or more degree turn around this mark, or whether they're going to kind of mix it up with Telefonica Blue and just bear away as they go around here now, get themselves up to speed and get out before they throw in that jibe. That's the call. You can see they've given themselves a lot of extra distance around that mark, and tacking those enormous sails, very difficult and very slow. And it does look like they're going for a bit more of a speed build here, Tom.
Yeah, looks like it. I think unless you've got a really good reason to tack and then jibe at the mark, it's definitely faster just to bear away and then jibe once you got a bit of pace on.
All right, and Ericsson 3 doing that now. The men in the middle of the boat grinding away as they try and get these sails trimmed in properly. It's an enormous head sail in these wind conditions that they use, the lighter conditions. More sail area needed to keep the boat moving quickly. That's what we're seeing on Ericsson 3, but we don't think they're going to go very far before they throw in a jibe as well. As we pan across, you see Telefonica Blue, Green Dragon with the spinnaker up, and Puma just on the edge of the spectator fleet. They're going to throw an attack right now as they approach that top mark. They led early on this upwind leg, but they did find themselves on the wrong side of the new breeze filling in, and that's shot them back down the fleet. And of course the all-important battle between Telefonica Blue and Puma. Well, Puma looked very good early, but it's Telefonica Blue that's away, sailing downwind. Puma still heading up towards the top mark as they finish their tack. Canute, you've probably got a few other boats coming at you at that mark right now. Who do you see, and who's going to be 4th and 5th around there?
Well, I'm actually looking at Puma, which is just about to round as I speak, I think. So Puma will be the next boat here after Ericsson 3. And I'm actually with the leaders at the moment.
Okay. They're
working themselves downwind, and Green Dragon have the spinnaker nicely filled, and Telefonica Blue is still sailing with coast 0. So it's really tricky here, but you could probably make it back to the start line without jibing if the breeze stays like it is. And in that case, Green Dragon would have gained because they actually jibe right at the mark. The problem Green Dragon has is that we have one of the biggest spectator fleets we've had in the race so far. And they are big enough to make a problem for them because, in fact, they're making a big shadow for the wind.
Bearing off here slowly, Earl.
Okay, Green Dragon leading the fleet around. They led Telefonica Blue, Ericsson 3, and now it's Puma Ocean Racing. Neil Mostro going around in 4th place. This is our first turning mark in leg 9. It's the leg to Stockholm. They do a little loop before they're free to sail the rest of the course, and this is the first stage of that, the windward mark. And Puma Ocean Racing in 4th place, mid-fleet, as they go around. Behind Green Dragon, Telefonica Blue, and Ericsson 3. And it looks like they're about to put the spinnaker up on Il Mostro as well. There's certainly plenty of work going on the foredeck there. We'll see the choices they make. Telefonica Black, Delta Lloyd, both of those boats looked fairly good at different stages in this leg, but it looks like they're nearer the back of the fleet right now.
Yeah, for sure. Telefonica Black has their A2 on deck as well. We'll see if they hoist. Puma's definitely going for an A2. And it looks like Blue might be just hoisting there in the background.
Indeed, and we can see these guys as well doing that difficult Green Dragon maneuver, tacking around the mark, and just coming into frame. The top left of your screen is Ericsson 4, who may find themselves in the unusual position of trailing the fleet around this top mark. We'll see. It might be close with Delta Lloyd and Ericsson 4. We'll see how that one goes. But we're on board with Fernando Echevarri as he gets the wheel over and brings Telefonica Black around in 5th place in front of this big spectator fleet. And the Telefonica guys here, again, the middle of the boat working so hard to get the sail trim right. Delta Lloyd, boy, they're trying to squeeze in, and there's not much between these two. There wasn't much between them at the finish of the previous leg. There's not much between them right now. It's Chuni Bermudez and Fernando Echevarri renewing their rivalry. And behind them, Torben Grail, Ericsson 4, trailing the fleet. And we haven't said that very often in this edition of the Volvo Ocean Race. Canute, you're at the other end of the racetrack to us. We're at the top mark. You're up with the leaders. What does it look like up there?
Well, I tell you, Green Dragon is looking pretty good to me. I mean, they joined at the mark. They aimed for what would be the northern end of the course. And they're having good pressure, and they've been doing well all the way since the mark. The spinners is nicely filled. The only struggle they have is the fact that they're really, really close to the spectator fleet. But the Swedish Coast Guard is helping us out there and really cleaning up the spectator fleet and pushing them back outside the racetrack. So with all these boats, I mean, I don't know how many boats we have here today, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's 1,000 boats. And I'm just here with a boat called Monkey Business. And they're definitely monkey business now because they're right in the middle of the course.
Well, we'll let you carry on with your monkey business as we see Ericsson 4 jibing around the top mark. They're trailing the fleet right now, but you know that there's nothing that they would like more than to reel in a few of these boats before they get to the bottom. And first up is Delta Lloyd, and Telefonica Black will be the first ones on their hit list. We'll see whether they're able to do that or not, but certainly the breeze seems to be stabilizing a little bit more as well, and if not increasing in strength, it looks like it's a bit more of a solid kind of 7, 8, 9 knots now, Tom. Certainly enough to keep the boats moving.
Yeah, it looks like it. E4 has come up with quite good pace there. Makes that jibing at the mark easier. They of course had a bit of starboard coming in there, so it's a easier manoeuvre for them to call.
Okay, and on board with Green Dragon, they were our leaders around the top mark as they led ahead of Green Dragon at the top of the fleet. They've been there for most of this leg, but you wouldn't have thought that if you'd have seen the start, because a poor start by the guys on Green Dragon, but they found the new breeze first, and that's been enough for them to lead up around the racetrack here as they close in, coming down now towards the second mark that they need to go around. Once they go back through that starting line, they're able to sail the rest of the leg free, and that's when they'll be heading 525 miles from Marstrand down to Stockholm. But Green Dragon right now, the big spinnaker up. They have been able to keep it filled. They're just on the edge of the spectator fleet, and they are showing some reasonable pace down here, trying to keep Telefonica Blue and Ericsson 3 in behind them. Canute, anything you can see with the breeze down at your end of the racetrack, or is it pretty much what we've been seeing up here?
No, I'll tell you, to us it looks almost lighter down the racetrack. I mean, we are right at the gate at the moment, and it looks really light here, but the boat that has done fantastically well on that run is really Green Dragon. We're still having pace. It looks dangerous to fall down to leeward because the breeze is still sort of breathing in from the north. And being up on that north line of pressure is what's helping them at the moment. And I think they're just about to cross the biggest part of the spectator fleet. What actually happened was that the majority of the spectator boats, they wanted to go with the boats, so they actually follow them all the way up to the upwind mark. And we just managed to police them now and keep them outside the race course, which means that Green Dragon is getting past them and getting some more clean air rather than being disturbed from the spectator fleet. But they're all doing well. Interestingly, some boats are still up with only the code zeros. But the top 3 boats, Green Dragon, Telefonica Blue, and Ericsson 3, all having spinnakers with Green Dragon and having extended their lead at the moment.
Well, we've got a great helicopter shot there, Canute, of Green Dragon leading around the top mark just ahead of Telefonica Blue. The blue boat coming in with much better speed as Green Dragon did one of those very rare 470-degree turns around a mark as they rolled into attack and a jibe almost immediately. But it certainly seems to have paid. They've got the spinnaker up. Telefonica Blue not very far behind. And then Ericsson 3. Those are your top 3 around the mark, and I don't think anything's changed on that. And then we've got Puma Ocean Racing in 4th place, Telefonica Black, Delta Lloyd, and oddly enough, Ericsson 4, the overall race leader, but they're at the back of the pack here. And we know that they'll be keen to improve on that before they get to Stockholm. Ericsson 4, of course, with an opportunity potentially on this leg to win the Volvo Ocean Race. They have a 15-point lead on the overall leaderboard. There's 20 points available to a team that sweeps the table the rest of the way. And Ericsson 4 doesn't need too many points now to collect to guarantee their position winning. And the story right now, though, of course, is Green Dragon, who they've come back from a poor start to lead the fleet as they head down here. An enormous spectator fleet, all sizes of boats. There's enormous 100-foot wallies down to little ribs out there following the racing here. And it's not just the people in boats. There's thousands more piled onto the rocks that dot around the island here at Marstrand. And a great view of some spectacular racing here as we can see Green Dragon leading the fleet down. We're on board with Telefonica now. And the guys on Telefonica Blue in 2nd place, but they're charging hard, a little bit to leeward of Green Dragon, and we'll see whether they're able to cut the corner on them a little bit towards the gate here. Tom, what sail do they have up? And they seem to be moving pretty well though in this breeze.
Yeah, they do. That's the A2 spinnaker. It's about 460 square metres, close to the maximum size. Definitely looks lighter down the bottom of the track here by eye though. We're seeing the odd white cap up the top, down the bottom here. Looks closer to 7-8 knots.
Yeah, and still plenty of slop and sea. There's, as Knut called it, it's kind of the normal swell that runs in this body of water. But yeah, to that, the spectator wash. And there's plenty of uncomfortable bumps along the way. But the wind seemed to be filling in a little bit better than it was at the start, although we'll see as they get down here whether that applies. We've got a great view out of our observation post here. We can see out the little slat of a window now. The whole fleet spinnakers up as they roar down towards us, and Telefonica Blue just fending off Ericsson 3 there. And that's the battle for second and third place. Ahead of them is Green Dragon. They're not in your screen. They're a little bit further off to the top left of your screen. As, we'll see if we can pan out and actually see the relative positions of all the boats here. We know Green Dragon just out of sight off screen, just to the left, top left, leading the fleet down. Boats trying to sail deep. And that's a gear that Telefonica Blue seems to specialize in, Tom, without giving away any state secrets. You guys do seem to be able to sail low in these kind of conditions compared to the rest.
For sure, yep. And this new spinnaker, we just buttoned this one prior to the last leg, and we're big fans of it.
Well, it's certainly getting some use, getting its money's worth right now. On board with Ericsson 3, third place, as they pour downwind. Axel Magdal there on the tablet computer. As the navigator, what's he looking at right now? Is it just distances? Is he looking at wind for what happens after they get to this gate? What are the types of things going through his mind?
Yeah, he'll be starting to work on the next leg, get an idea of how long on each tack for the next leg. And also the previous leg. It's just geometry really when you're inshore like this. It's where you are on the course, how long to each ley line, and when you should be jibing.
Okay, well, at the back of the fleet, it is, we said Ericsson 4 was looking to make a move on the two boats ahead of them. Delta Lloyd was first up. That seems like they've ticked that box. And Telefonica Black is next on the list. But a different sail selection here. We've got the Ericsson guys with the spinnaker up, Telefonica Black with the code 0.
Yep, and there's even a spinnaker in between those two, so quite extreme differences there.
Okay, well, we'll see which one pays. Ericsson 4 certainly closing the gap on Telefonica Black. It would seem like with each passing moment here, they are on a bit of a run catching up here. Delta Lloyd sailing a little bit deeper and maybe trying to cut the corner a little bit. Knut, down at the gate, what are you seeing? And is it still the Green Dragon going to be the first to see you?
Well, still Green Dragon is going to be the first boat at the moment, but I tell you, Telefonica Blue has been soaking a lot. But as I speak, Green Dragon really got some new pressure, and they're really speeding up again. The big question is obviously if Green Dragon is laying the mark or not. And if they are laying the mark, they would be looking really good. But if they're not, they'll have to drive, and then we have them a very close fight with Telefonica Blue.
Okay,
it's still a struggle here with the spectator fleet. And the spectator fleet is really sort of falling back into the race course again, between the boats actually, and that's going to hurt the boats behind a lot. So kind of disappointing that they're not respecting the limitations of the course. But it's difficult for us to police this many boats when they're all choosing not to respect it.
Okay, Knut, Green Dragon coming down towards you right now. Tell us what happens after they reach this mark. Then they just head off and head south, basically.
Yeah, after they round this mark, they go and basically head out again and round the Marstrand, the coast of Marstrand, and just slide south. And it's an interesting race course here because we do a lot of racing up here, the Norwegians and the Swedish and the Danish. There's a lot of rocks, and there's a lot of short tracks actually between the rocks. And we have decided in the sailing instruction to keep the race course pretty open. So you might see that some of the locals, such as Roger Nilsson on Telefonica Black, will take a little shortcut in between some of these rocks, which could be really beneficial because sometimes you have more breeze closer to the coast here in these conditions and a flatter sea, so you can get going better. But that's pretty much. And then they can choose the two different channels outside Copenhagen. They can go underneath the big bridge, or they can go over the tunnel. And from there on, an open course all the way to Stockholm.
Okay, well, we've got a great shot of Puma as they're coming downwind. They've got an enormous spectator fleet following them as they head down towards this mark. The early advantage to Telefonica Blue in this fight between Blue and Puma for second place on the overall leaderboard. Puma's ahead by just 1 point, but Telefonica Blue is in second place right now on this leg, and Puma down in fourth place. So if it were to finish like this, of course, the positions would flip yet again, and this looks like a battle that's destined to go all the way to St. Petersburg, the fight for second place. Both Kenny Reed and Bao Becking speaking about it a little bit yesterday at the press conference, and saying, you know what, if we're not careful, we could find ourselves in 6th and 7th place on this leg if we just focus on each other. They can afford to do that. The boats behind can't catch them on the overall leaderboard, but there's also a bit of pride to play for, and I know both would be just as keen to win the leg as well. So we'll see how that plays out, those competing interests. But right now, Puma making good speed downwind. It looks like the breeze is holding all the way down, Canute, and Puma really well downwind of everybody else. I think they sailed further out than anybody before they made their jibe. Is that right?
They did, absolutely, Peter. And it all depends on what happens to the breeze when we get close back to the start line, because if the breeze makes any lift or stays like it is now, Puma might be gaining a lot on this, because they really have worked it down nicely, and by now they have the best angle to the bottom mark by far. So it's no doubt anymore that Green Dragon will have to jibe to get down to that bottom mark. They will have to jibe to get down to the mark, and I'm pretty sure that Puma would not have to jibe. They look like they're really laying nicely all the way down to the mark.
For sure, and they're bringing nice pressure down with them now.
Yeah, it does look like plenty of pace on board Il Mostro, as we can say they are roaring downwind. They've got a fair bit of breeze there. They've got some nice speed up as they come down. And looking out our window, we can see the entire fleet. Green Dragon just out on their own. And Canute, it looks like they're fairly isolated out on the edge of the spectator fleet there as Green Dragon. Are they going to wait until the end to put a jibe in? Okay, I think we've lost Canute in the spectator fleet there for a moment, but we'll try and come back to him in just a second or two. We can see Green Dragon is, they're almost defining the edge of the spectator fleet, are the Dragons, as they come downwind, but they're in danger of having the other guys kind of cut the corner on them here, Tom, and both Telefonica Blue, Puma, and maybe to a lesser extent even Ericsson 3 are in that situation. Green Dragon's going to have to come over and protect this a little bit.
For sure, and you can see their situation just in the way they've trimmed their chute. Green Dragon going for all the depth they can get, well eased. Puma, on the other hand, fully pressed up, coming in with a lot more pace.
Okay, we're on board with Ericsson 3, and just in the top left corner of the screen you can see Telefonica Blue. There's not a lot between these two boats right now, but Ericsson 3 able to hold on a little bit longer before they put in their first jibe. And Telefonica Blue trying to soak down onto their edge of the course. Puma, of course, much further around, and they did hold on going around that top mark much longer than anybody else before they jibe, and that's allowing them to sail slightly higher angle, and certainly a much faster angle right now as they approach this bottom mark. And I'm trying to see at the very back whether we've got Ericsson making inroads into Telefonica Black or not, but we'll look at our leaders here. There's a great shot where you can see exactly what's happening with Green Dragon. And they, Tom, it does look like they might find themselves a little bit too far, a little bit exposed on what was the right-hand side of the racetrack, the left side going downwind.
Yeah, it's a horrible feeling to be stuck up there with no shift to come back on in this weight of breeze. Very painful.
All right, we'll know the guys on Green Dragon are going to be looking under that boom and over their shoulders, maybe not liking what they'll see. They might still just squeeze around, but remember at the top mark there wasn't very much in between Green Dragon and Telefonica Blue, and if the Dragons lost anything now, they're going to find it very difficult to maintain their position at the head of the fleet. It does look, if anything though, like these first four boats, there's not going to be an awful lot to choose from by the time they go through this start line. But Canute, we'll come back and see if we've got you again just now. What are you seeing, and how does it look down at this gate?
Yeah, Peter, I'm just at the bottom mark now, and they're all coming close together. It's going to be difficult for Green Dragon. That Green Dragon has to drive right in the spectator fleet to get all the way to ley line. And unfortunately, there's too many spectators back at the mark again. So, yeah, I think Green Dragon will struggle to get down and jibe and get ahead of Blue, but she's certainly the leader at the moment. That's very clear, but it's going to be a close rounding between Telefonica Blue and Green Dragon, that's what I think. Green Dragon is driving just as I speak, and now heading to the bottom mark.
Okay, Green Dragon trying to come across now, see if they can protect their position, and this is going to be the moment of truth once they get that spinnaker set get back up to speed, we should have a much better idea as to how they sit in relation to. Well, we've got both Telefonica Blue and Ericsson 3. Yeah, go ahead, Knut.
Yeah, actually, Green Dragon, they jibed and they unrolled zero in the jibe, and they're not going to be the first mark, I think. I think they'll be really close with Telefonica Blue, but the wind has shifted a bit right as we get to the bottom mark, and Blue is laying almost the mark at the moment, while Puma is reaching into the mark with a really good speed. So this is going to be an extremely close rounding with all the 4 boats. Ericsson 3, Telefonica Blue, Green Dragon and Puma, and they're all really close together. In fact, Puma will come right up to them, and Blue will be the first boat around the mark, just dropping now. They're unrolling the code 0 in the jibe, and they're coming out as the first boat, and I think you'll find that Green Dragon might find themselves in third place here and not even anything better, but that Ericsson 3 guys have a shocker of a drop. They managed to hook the spinnaker on the spreader, so they're still towing the spinnaker behind them, and in the spreader it doesn't look very good. Looks rather unprofessional. They didn't manage to trip the tack of it, and they're having a big part of the spinnaker in the water. Telefonica Blue is just now getting around the mark, and Telefonica Blue is just unrolling the 0, sheeting it in, and then you have Puma also with part of the spinnaker in the water, but it's just a tack. Getting inside Ericsson 3, and Puma will be the second boat around the bottom mark. Just in front of Ericsson 3. They're really close. They're within half. They're actually overlapping. And then Green Dragon is coming behind both of them with good pace. And the interesting thing is, Green Dragon is going several knots faster than Ericsson 3 and Puma, and they will struggle to get between the mark. So the question is for Ian Walker, is he going to try to sneak inside them?
I think
yes,
he is
going to sneak inside them. Yes, he is. And he is with an enormous pace, and he's passing both Puma and Ericsson 3. Really close and exciting rounding.
Wow, what a rounding. So Telefonica Blue just escaping, about 4 boat lengths ahead, it looks like here. And then Ericsson 3 looked like they had second place. A poor drop, allowing Puma to come in inside. And Green Dragon from out of nowhere, Tom, coming in at full chat. A lot of speed on, and they've already rolled Ericsson 3. They're just about to get upwind of Puma, and that's your top 4. If you were to call it right now, you'd say it's Telefonica Blue, Green Dragon, Puma, and Ericsson 3, but a lot of action down there.
For sure, and isn't momentum a wonderful thing? You can seafood for dinner with E3 with trawling that chute, and you stop these boats in this way to breeze, and takes a long time to get going. Dragons kept the momentum, and I don't know if they'll be able to roll Puma from there, but they'll do just fine.
Okay, well, we've got Telefonica Blue, Green Dragon, Puma, Ericsson 3. Not much to choose between Green Dragon and Puma, and we'll see whether they can live there or they're going to need to tack to get themselves some clear wind. In behind, well, there's a lot of action going on. Telefonica Black, Knut, it looks like an interesting drop on that boat as well.
Yeah, everybody's been struggling with the drops there. So Telefonica Black is clearly the next boat, though. They're clear ahead of Ericsson 4, and you have Delta Lloyd in last place. So it looks like both Telefonica Blue and Puma, they really got the pressure, both of them. And it's good fun to see the 2 boats that we know only have 1 point apart up in the lead now, because it's going to be the big match race of this leg. It's going to be between Puma and Telefonica Blue. And Green Dragon is now clearly in 3rd, and Ericsson 3 in 4th. As I speak, Torben Grell in Ericsson 4 is coming towards the mark. And there is some new breeze filling in there. There's quite a bit of pressure, actually, at the bottom mark now. And I can see the boats are really well powered up and speeding along as they're heading south around the island.
Okay, thanks, Knut. Well, that's where we are going to leave you. And if you're watching this in Stockholm, well, the fleet's coming your way now. They've done their loop in Marstrand. 525 miles later, we're expecting to be there overnight Monday night into Tuesday morning. That's the current ETA. And if you want some updates, well, you just need to go to volvooceanrace.org for that. We are going to be blogging this leg live. There's going to be coverage for the entire leg on the website. You can also find us on Twitter. And we'll have the Fleet Broadband Express following the Fleet. So we should be able to give you plenty of action, plenty of detailed coverage of this leg as we continue along our way. But right now we've got Telefonica Blue. They're leading Puma, Ericsson 3, Green Dragon, as that's your top 4 as we start to head down towards Stockholm. But for Knut Frostad, Tom Addis, my name is Peter Rush. Thank you for watching us, and join us again in Stockholm. We'll be there in a couple of days.